All right, UPSC aspirants, get ready for a deep dive that's going to boost your prep. Today, we're tackling the Business Ready Report. Be Ready for short.
Yeah, you can think of it like the sequel to that Ease of Doing Business report, but without all the controversy.
Oh, there was definitely drama with that one.
For sure, lots of drama. Be Ready is a fresh start, a way to look at what makes a country's business environment really tick.
And why should our listeners care?
Think GS Paper 3 for your mains exam. This stuff is gold. And who knows, it might even sneak into prelims.
So not just theory, but practical stuff that helps you score higher on the UPSC.
Exactly. Imagine you're facing a question about improving India's investment climate.
Or maybe an essay on sustainable development.
Be Ready gives you the ammo you need to write those killer answers that examiners love.
All right, you've convinced me it's important. But what is Be Ready really all about?
It's all about helping countries create business environments that attract investment and lead to inclusive private sector growth.
So not just making big businesses happy.
Right. It's about opportunities for businesses of all sizes.
A balanced and sustainable approach.
Exactly. And it goes deep, covering 10 core topics.
10 topics. Like what?
Starting a business, labor regulations, trade, even dealing with insolvency, the whole life cycle.
Wow, that is a lot. How do they organize all that?
That's where the 3 pillars of Be Ready come in. They're like different lenses you can use to analyze a country's business scene.
Okay, 3 lenses. I'm intrigued. What am I looking at with these lenses?
The first lens is regulatory framework. It focuses on the rules and regulations that businesses have to follow.
So are the rules clear? Are they fair? Or just a bunch of obstacles?
Exactly. Think of it like checking the blueprint of a house.
To see if it's designed well? Makes sense. What about lens number 2?
That's public services. This one's all about what the government provides: utilities, transportation, legal systems.
The essential stuff that keeps things running.
Yeah, like the utilities in a house. Without them, it's not very livable, is it?
Definitely not. All right, last lens. What's the big reveal?
Operational efficiency. This lens looks at how easily businesses can actually comply with those regulations and use those public services.
So, do the rules and services actually work in practice?
Exactly. It's like checking if all the systems in our house are working properly.
Making life easier for everyone living there.
Right. Good rules and services on paper don't mean much if they don't actually work in reality.
This is changing how I think about those UPSC case studies.
That's great to hear. And it gets even more interesting. Be Ready doesn't stop at those 3 pillars. It also looks at 3 key themes:
Okay, hit me with these themes. What are they?
digital adoption, environmental sustainability, and gender.
So modern business isn't just about profits anymore.
Right. It's about responsibility and sustainability, too. Long-term success means empowering women, using technology wisely, and protecting the environment.
This is pure gold for those UPSC essays and ethics questions.
Absolutely. Understanding these themes gives you a real edge.
Okay, I'm sold. This report is valuable. But how do they actually assess countries? How do they figure out who's doing well and who needs to step it up?
Well, unlike the old report, Be Ready doesn't have a single ranking system.
Okay, so how does it work?
It uses 2 types of scores: topic scores and pillar scores.
Break it down for me. What do these scores tell us?
Topic scores look at a country's performance in each of those 10 areas we talked about. It's like getting a grade for each subject in school.
And pillar scores.
Those look at the overall performance within each pillar, how well the regulations, services, and operational efficiency work together, like your overall GPA.
I see. So it's more nuanced than just saying this country is number 1.
Exactly. It encourages countries to focus on specific improvements instead of just chasing a high ranking.
Makes sense. Can you give me a real-world example of what one of those 10 topics looks like?
Sure. Let's look at starting a business. Be Ready looks at things like how many procedures it takes to register a company, how long it takes, and how much it costs.
They even look at whether you can do it all online.
Exactly. It's about the real experience of an entrepreneur trying to get their business off the ground.
Now, that's practical. Okay, so what are some of the major findings from the latest report? What's working globally, and what needs a serious makeover?
One surprising finding is something they call the public services gap. Lots of countries have decent rules on paper, but their service delivery is lagging behind.
So good rules don't mean much if the government isn't providing the support to make them work.
Exactly. It's like having a fancy house with faulty wiring and leaky pipes.
Looks good, but good luck living there. Okay, that's the bad news. What about some good news?
Well, Rwanda has a great success story. They've got this one-stop shop for business registration that cuts down processing time to just a few days.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right. And it shows that economic progress isn't just about how rich a country is.
So what else is working well globally?
Countries that are using digital tools and prioritizing green practices tend to perform better.
Those are definitely key trends these days. Okay, enough about the rest of the world. What about India? Where do we stand in all this?
India didn't participate in this year's report, but the think tank, GTRI, has some observations based on Be Ready's framework.
Okay, what are they saying?
They're pointing out potential challenges in areas like getting a business started, labor regulations, and trade efficiency.
Oh, that doesn't sound great. Can you give me a specific example?
Well, India's made progress in digitizing business registration, but it still takes an average of 18 days.
18 days.
Compared to just one in Singapore. That's a big difference for an entrepreneur.
Okay, and what about these labor regulation issues?
GTRI says India's labor laws are really complex and vary a lot from state to state, which creates a lot of uncertainty for businesses.
So consistency is key.
Exactly. Then there's the problem of trade inefficiency. GTRI says customs processes are slow and logistics costs are high.
More roadblocks.
Yeah. And they compare that to Singapore again, where importing and exporting is a breeze.
Okay, so some tough challenges for India. Anything positive from GTRI?
Yes. They do say that India has the potential to do well in the 3 core pillars of Be Ready, especially in operations and regulations.
Some good foundation, but work to be done.
Exactly. And that's where the report's recommendations come in, offering ideas for policymakers on how to improve things.
All right, let's dive into those recommendations. What are some key takeaways for India, especially for those UPSC aspirants who might need to analyze these issues?
One major recommendation is to streamline and digitize more business operations, taking inspiration from countries like Singapore.
So making it easier and faster to do business in India.
Yeah, using technology to get rid of those bottlenecks.
That sounds a lot like the Digital India push. What else?
Strengthening public services and speeding up digital transformation are also key, like what Estonia has done.
Investing in online portals, improving access to utilities, and online dispute resolution.
Exactly. And for our UPSC folks, this highlights the importance of e-governance and digital inclusion in India's development.
Definitely exam-worthy topics. Anything else?
The report also pushes for sustainability and inclusivity, like what Rwanda's doing with empowering women entrepreneurs.
So policies that encourage environmentally friendly practices, support women-led businesses, and make sure everyone has equal opportunities.
Exactly. It's about a holistic approach to development, not just efficiency.
And finally,
The report encourages countries to learn from each other and share what works. There's a lot we can pick up from places like Singapore, Rwanda, and Estonia.
like a global best practices club.
You got it. And for India, that means being open to adopting innovative solutions from others and making them work for us.
We've covered so much, from understanding Be Ready to looking at India's performance and what needs to improve. But I have one more question before we wrap up this part of our discussion.
Oh, for it.
Given all we've discussed, how can India use this Be Ready framework to achieve its development goals while being inclusive and sustainable?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's something I want all our listeners to think about. How can those 10 topics, the 3 pillars, and the key themes be applied to India's situation?
How can we learn from others while tackling our own challenges?
Exactly. We'll dig into some solutions in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, I really encourage everyone to check out the full Be Ready report.
It's packed with insights that can help you understand India's economy.
And maybe even inspire some innovative solutions for the future.
And don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations on topics relevant to your UPSC prep. We'll help you ace those exams.
We'll be back with part 2 after a short break.
You know, what really strikes me about this Be Ready report is how it goes beyond just looking at economic numbers.
Yeah, it's not just about GDP growth anymore.
Right. It's about creating a business environment that's sustainable and inclusive, something that benefits everybody.
And that's a shift that's super important for our UPSC folks to get. Absolutely. It's like how the exam itself is changing, putting more emphasis on things like ethical decision-making, sustainability, and the social impact of economic policies.
Makes sense.
For example, the report makes it clear gender equality isn't just a social issue, it's economic too.
Right. When women can fully participate in the economy, everyone wins.
Exactly. And that's something that could easily pop up in an essay question or even a case study In the mains exam,
It's that we need to break down those walls between different areas and see that social progress and economic development go hand in hand.
absolutely. It's not an either situation.
Right, it's both.
And the same goes for environmental sustainability.
Yeah, it's not just about checking boxes to comply with regulations.
Right. It's about understanding that protecting our natural resources is key for long-term economic growth. Think about those UPSC questions you might get on climate change or resource management, even disaster mitigation.
I see where you're going with this.
The Be Ready framework can help you look at those issues from an economic angle.
It's giving me so many new ways to think about my GS answers. I can see how to use these ideas in my arguments about sustainable development, social justice, and economic policy.
That's fantastic. And remember, this Be Ready report isn't just some theoretical framework.
Yeah, it's based on real-world stuff.
Exactly. Real data and best practices from all over the globe. You can use those findings to make your argument stronger and show you really understand what works and what doesn't.
It's like having a cheat sheet for real-world policy, but in a good way.
That's the idea. And for those listening who are prepping for the mains exam specifically, I want to point out a key part of the report, the recommendations. This is where you'll find some really useful stuff for your answer writing.
Oh, so it's not just about understanding the framework and the findings.
No, it's about being able to analyze those recommendations and apply them to different situations.
I get it.
Those recommendations often talk about things like policy changes, institutional reforms, even specific initiatives that countries can use to improve their business environments. Imagine being able to use those in your answers.
Showing the examiners you haven't just read the report, you've actually thought about how to use it.
Exactly. That's impressive stuff. Let's say you're tackling a question about boosting India's ranking in the next Be Ready report.
Wait, I'm listening.
Well, the report keeps saying how important it is to streamline and digitize business operations.
Okay, so making things easier and faster.
Exactly. Simplify registration processes, cut down the number of procedures, speed up approvals, and make sure more of those processes can be done online.
So like Singapore, where you can register a business online in a day.
Yeah, that would be a game changer for India. And it fits perfectly with the whole digital India push.
I see the connection. What else?
Another big recommendation you could use is about strengthening public services and accelerating digital transformation. The report points to Estonia as a model for creating a digital society where almost everything can be done online, including government stuff.
That links to e-governance, transparency, reducing corruption, all important for the UPSC.
Exactly. And this isn't just about businesses, it's about making life better for everyone.
Easier access to services, faster processing times, less bureaucracy, everyone wins.
Absolutely. The report also talks about promoting sustainable and inclusive growth. This could mean promoting green technologies, supporting women entrepreneurs, even ensuring small and medium businesses have access to financing. These are things India is already working on.
So the Be Ready report provides that global context.
Exactly. It shows what other countries are doing well.
This has given me so many ideas. I can see how to use these recommendations in my answers on economic development, social justice, and even international relations.
That's great. Don't forget, the Be Ready report is available online for everyone. I encourage everyone listening to download it and dig into the details.
It's one thing to hear us talk about it.
Right. It's another to really explore it for yourself. You'll find case studies, data, even regional analysis. All of that can help you understand the global business landscape even better.
Great tip. Now, before we move on to how other countries have actually put the Be Ready framework into action, I think there's a question on everyone's mind. Why didn't India participate in this year's assessment?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's caused a lot of discussion.
Some say it's because of concerns about the data or the methodology. Others think it was a strategic move to avoid criticism or comparisons.
It's hard to say for sure.
Whatever the reason, it makes those observations from GTRI even more important.
Definitely. They provide an outside perspective based on Be Ready that helps us see where we can improve. But we have to remember, no single report can tell the whole story.
True, we need to look at things from different angles.
Exactly. And speaking of different angles, I think it's time we shifted gears and looked at some specific examples of how other countries have successfully used the Be Ready principles.
Okay, I'm ready for some inspiration. Who should we learn from?
Let's start with the champion of these rankings, Singapore. They've really mastered how to create a seamless digital experience for businesses.
I've heard great things about their e-governance initiatives. What's so impressive?
Imagine this. You want to start a business in Singapore. You go online, fill out one form, pay the fee electronically, and boom, within 24 hours, you have your company registration certificate, all from home.
Wow, that's efficiency. Why can't it be that easy in India?
It's a few things combined. They've invested a lot in building a strong digital infrastructure. Digital literacy is a priority for them, and they've created a culture of innovation within the government.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people and the mindset too.
You got it. And they really prioritize the needs of both businesses and citizens. They get that a user-friendly and efficient government helps the economy and everyone's well-being.
That's something India can learn from. We have the tech, but sometimes the way it's used and how easy it is for people to use it, that's where we fall short.
I see your point. It shows how important it is to keep improving and learning from what others are doing well. Okay, let's move on to another inspiring example, Rwanda. They've made amazing progress in their business environment.
And they've done it while facing some big challenges as a developing nation.
Exactly.
What have they focused on?
One key thing has been simplifying and streamlining regulations, especially for small and medium businesses.
Okay, makes sense.
They've cut down on the number of procedures to start a business, made it easier to get permits and licenses, and they even have one-stop shops where entrepreneurs can access all the government services they need in one place.
So they're really making it easy to do business.
Exactly. They've also put a lot of emphasis on transparency and accountability. That's been key to building trust and attracting investment. They have online platforms where you can track government spending. They make it easy for citizens to get information about public services, and they've set up ways to report corruption.
So it's about fairness and making sure everyone benefits.
Precisely. These are things India can learn from and adapt. We have a lot of potential, but we need to be smarter and more focused.
This is great stuff. I'm sure our listeners are loving it. But before we go to our last example, I want to remind everyone why we're doing this. For those prepping for the UPSC, understanding Be Ready in these global examples isn't just about learning facts.
It's about developing those analytical skills and that critical thinking that you need for the exam.
The UPSC isn't about memorizing. It's about using that knowledge in real-world situations, analyzing different viewpoints, and putting together strong arguments. And that's exactly what we're doing today.
You got it. So everyone listening, don't just sit back and listen. Actively think about this stuff. Ask yourself how these concepts apply to India. What kind of questions might you see on the exam?
Great advice.
Now, for our final example, let's head to Estonia. It's a small country that's become a leader in digital governance.
Estonia, interesting.
They've created a truly digital society where you can do almost everything online. Voting, healthcare, even running a business.
That's pretty futuristic. How did they do it?
They had a clear vision. They were really committed to using technology to empower people. They put a lot of money into building digital infrastructure so everyone has access to high-speed internet and the devices they need.
Okay, so infrastructure is key.
Yes. And they created a secure digital identity system for everyone, which has made things like online transactions and interactions with the government super secure and efficient.
So it's not just about businesses or government agencies. It's about involving everyone.
Exactly. And it's worked. Estonia's economy is one of the most dynamic and innovative in Europe. They're attracting investment and talent from everywhere. They've even become a hub for startups and tech companies. It's a great example of how embracing technology can lead to success.
These examples are so inspiring. But can a country as big and diverse as India really do the same? We have so many hurdles, bureaucracy, digital literacy gaps, infrastructure issues. It seems daunting.
It's a challenge for sure, but I think we can do it. We've got the talent, the resources, the entrepreneurial spirit. It's all there.
So we have the ingredients.
Yes, but it will take a combined effort from everyone. The government, private businesses, even individual citizens.
Working together toward a common goal.
Exactly. We can't just copy what other countries have done. We need to learn from their experiences, adapt them to our own situation, and most importantly, believe that we can achieve the same level of success.
It's about believing in ourselves and our potential.
Exactly. And that's where I think the Be Ready framework is really valuable for India. It gives us a measuring stick to see where we stand, a set of best practices to learn from, and a way to think critically about the policies that will drive our growth.
It's like a roadmap to a brighter future for India.
Well said. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a few key takeaways. First, remember that making a business-friendly environment isn't just about having fewer rules.
There's more to it.
Yes, it's about building a system that's efficient, transparent, and supportive of businesses and workers.
Finding that sweet spot between growth and fairness.
Exactly. Second, we need to really embrace technology as a tool for empowering people. Digitalization can streamline things, cut down on corruption, and make it easier for everyone to participate in the economy.
It's about using technology to level the playing field.
Precisely. And last but not least, a successful business environment has to be inclusive and sustainable. It's about making sure everyone has the opportunity to contribute and benefit while also protecting our environment for the future.
Creating a future where economic progress goes hand in hand with social justice and environmental responsibility.
Beautifully put. So that's the end of part 2 of our deep dive into the Be Ready report. We'll be back with the third and final part after a short break. Stay tuned.
All right, we're back for the final part of our Be Ready deep dive. I'm ready to hear more about those global success stories. What else have you got?
Well, we talked about Singapore and Rwanda, but let's look at one more example you might not expect. Colombia.
Colombia. I wouldn't have thought of them as a business superstar. What's their secret?
They've been quietly making big improvements, especially when it comes to dealing with insolvency, when businesses are struggling.
Oh, I see.
They've made it easier for businesses to restructure their debts and get a second chance instead of just shutting down.
So it's not just about attracting new businesses, it's about helping the ones that are already there.
Exactly. Their reforms have made the whole process faster, more transparent, and less about punishing businesses.
So it's less risky for entrepreneurs.
Right, and that encourages people to take more risks, which ultimately leads to a stronger economy.
It's like a safety net for businesses, not just a starting point.
Exactly. And this goes back to what we've been talking about with the Be Ready report. It's about a holistic approach. A good business environment is about more than just investment. It's about creating a culture where businesses can grow, even fail sometimes, and come back stronger.
It's really making me rethink what it takes to have a successful business environment.
That's what we like to hear. Now, for our UPSC listeners, imagine you're in your mains exam and there's a question about analyzing India's bankruptcy laws.
Okay, a very real scenario.
Knowing about Colombia's success with insolvency could be really useful. You could talk about what they did well and how India could implement similar reforms.
Great point. It's all about taking those global examples and making them relevant to India, showing you can think outside the box.
Exactly. Now, we've focused on a lot of success stories, but it's important to remember that there's no magic formula that works everywhere.
Right, what works in one place might not work somewhere else.
Yeah, we have to think about the context and adapt solutions to different situations. So how can India learn from these examples while keeping in mind our own challenges?
That's the question.
Well, I think the first thing is we need to set some ambitious goals. If we want a truly world-class business environment, we have to aim high.
No more small steps. We need big, bold moves.
Exactly. And we have to be willing to learn from others, not just from their wins, but from their mistakes, too.
So, studying what worked, what didn't, and why.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that improving the business environment isn't just the government's job.
Others need to be involved.
Yes. The private sector, civil society, even individuals, everyone needs to work together.
It's about creating a system that works for everyone.
Right. And for those prepping for the UPSC, this shows how important it is to think across different areas. The problems facing India's business environment aren't just economic. They're social, political, even cultural.
It's complex.
It is. You need to be able to connect the dots, understand how all those factors work together, and come up with solutions that are comprehensive and sustainable.
That's what makes the UPSC exam so challenging.
Yeah.
But also so rewarding.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Be Ready report, I want to leave you all with a call to action. Don't just take in this information, go out and use it.
Put it into practice.
Yes. Download the full report, look at the data, study the case studies, and think about how it all applies to the challenges India faces.
Use it to prepare for the UPSC, to better understand the world, and to become leaders who can make real positive change.
Well said. Remember, this isn't the end. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep trying to make a difference.
And keep listening to The Deep Dive for more discussions on important topics. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe so you don't miss anything.
Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those ambitions high.